What conversation from your childhood hits completely differently as an adult? I was 12 when my mom told me, very calmly over breakfast, that she'd never actually wanted to get married. She said it the same way she'd comment on the weather, just a statement like she was noting that it might rain later. I remember freezing with my spoon halfway to my mouth, and my dad just nodded, sipped his coffee, and said, "Yeah, me neither." Then they both laughed. Since you asked about conversations that hit different as an adult, that's the one, because at the time, I had no idea what I was actually hearing. We were a normal family, or what I thought was normal. Mom worked as a paralegal, dad did something with insurance that I'd never fully understood, and my older sister Jenna was already away at college. We lived in a blue ranch house with a deck my dad built himself, and every Sunday we have pancakes and argue about whether to go hiking or stay home and watch movies. They seemed fine. They seemed like parents. But there were always these small things I didn't think much about, like how they had separate bedrooms. Mom's was upstairs, dad's was the den he'd converted. They told us it was because dad snored, which made sense at the time, or how they never used terms of endearment. It was always David and Ellen, never honey or babe or anything like that. They were polite, they were friendly. I just figured that's what marriage looked like after 20 years. That morning at breakfast, I asked why they'd gotten married if they didn't want to. I was genuinely curious, not upset. My mom shrugged and said, it made sense at the time. We were good friends and everyone expected it. My dad nodded again. Plus, he added, we both wanted kids and it seemed easier together. I went to school, I came home, life continued. It wasn't until I was in my mid-20s, sitting in a coffee shop with my own partner, that the memory resurfaced. We just had one of those big relationship talks, the kind where you're trying to figure out if you're together because you love each other or because it's convenient. And suddenly, I remembered that breakfast. I remembered my parents' faces, how calm they were, how there was no tension, no bitterness, just facts. I called Jenna that night. Do you remember when Mom and Dad told us they didn't actually want to get married? She was quiet for a long time. Then she said, you mean the platonic co-parenting thing? Apparently, she'd figured it out years earlier during a late-night conversation with Mom when she was home from college. They'd never been in love. They'd been best friends who made a mutual decision to build a life together because they both wanted children and neither had found romantic partners they wanted to marry. It wasn't a secret, exactly. They just never explained it outright because, as Mom told Jenna, it didn't seem necessary. We loved you kids, we got along, and everything worked. Looking back, so many things make sense now. How they'd sometimes go on separate vacations and come back happy to see each other like friends catching up. How they'd give each other space without it being a fight. How genuinely kind they were to one another, without the weird tension I'd see in my friends' parents' marriages. They never argued about money or whose turn it was to do dishes. They just collaborated. I asked my mom about it a few years ago, now that I'm older and it feels less strange to bring up. She said they got divorced when I was in college. I knew that part, but that they still talk every week. Best decision we ever made, she said. Both the marriage and the divorce. She told me they discussed it before I was even born, that they'd agreed on 10 years minimum, and they ended up making it almost 22 years. I don't know how I feel about it, honestly. Part of me wishes they'd explained it better when we were kids, but another part of me thinks maybe it didn't matter. They were good parents. They were good to each other. And maybe that's more than a lot of people get. I think about that breakfast sometimes, the casual way they said it like it was obvious, and maybe to them it was.